So next, we'll be studying about Apache POI API, POI API, right? Basically, this is a Java API that is used to handle the Microsoft Excel documents and other documents of Microsoft, right? So, like this is again, Microsoft Excel is another software, right? And in order to perform read and write operation with that software, there is a specific API design. Some people use JXL, that is another API. Some people use Apache POI API. So POI is one of the most popular API to read and write with Excel files, right? So there are two formats in which the Microsoft documents can be read. One is .xls format, which is one of the old version of Microsoft documents, that is from 97 to 2003 file formats. And there was a class specifically designed. There was basically an API designed, that is HSSF, which was a part of the POI API itself, was designed to handle those files, right? Now, latest we are using the files, the Excel files that are with format .xlsx, right? So we will be using an API called XSSF, right? Again, it's provided by POI itself, right? So in order to perform any operation with Excel files, we first need to download the Apache POI APIs from the Apache website itself, and then we need to add them into our project build path, right? So how we're going to do that? We'll go to Google and type download Apache POI API, right? And you'll go to this link. From here, you can download this zip file, right? This is available for the Mac versions as well, right? So just download the zip file, and once these are around 24 MB jar files, right? So once you extract them, you're gonna get couple of jar files, right? You can include all those jar files as well, else you would be needing just 5 of these jar files, which I'll add to your course. So these are the 5 major POI APIs that you would be needing in order to do reading and writing with Excel, right? So I'll be adding these files to the project over here. I'll go to build path, configure build path, add external jars. Since these are the external jars, I need to choose this option and select all the jar files and click on OK, right? So we'll be performing reading, writing. The very first thing, we'll start with writing something inside the Excel file. So I'll say Excel, or I'll name this class as writing Excel, right? Now, normally, if we talk about how we can perform, if I talk about a normal Excel sheet, this is basically an Excel sheet, right? Now, what all these things are there? These things are basically sheet, right? And this entire thing, we call it as a workbook. These are rows, right? And these are, we don't call them as columns, we call them as cells, right? Now, in order to read or write with the Excel file, the very first thing we need to create is the Excel file, right? A workbook basically. Now within that workbook, we need to create some sheets, and after creating sheets, we need to create the rows, and then we need to create the cells. So this is how we are gonna follow. If you take a look over here, these are basically steps that we need to follow. Create an Excel workbook, create sheets, create rows, and then create cells. And then we need to give an output stream, which will select the file that we actually gonna read, right? And then we need to chain all these steps to the previous steps that we used. And again, the same writer is there, which will actually gonna write inside that particular cells or files, right? And again, it will be chained to the previous step, and then we're gonna close the output stream. So steps are a bit similar as we have seen in the case when we are writing inside a text file, right? Now let's see how we're gonna do writing inside an Excel file. So here are some of the classes that are available to create a workbook, a class called XSSF workbook. So since we will working on the .xlsx format, so I'll be using the latest class, right? Then we'll be creating the worksheets. We'll be calling the sheet class and passing on the sheet name, right? Then we will be creating some rows inside those sheets, right? And after that we need to create cells and set the value to the cell. So this is what we actually need to do. And then when we are setting up a value, let's say I've created a cell I've created it with A, B, C sort of format, because we have cells in a form of columns A, B, C, right? So after this, I'm gonna set values to each cell like this, and then we will be needing the streams, right? So file stream for creating a file, then output stream for reading that particular file, and then writing inside that particular file, and then workbook.write will actually gonna write into that output stream. Then we'll close it, and finally we're gonna write the Excel file is written. So this is a very basic and a very simple code to write inside an Excel file. Now let's go back to Eclipse, and let's start writing some code to create workbook and sheets, right? So the class that I'm going to call is xxsf work book, and I'm going to create a reference workbook equal to new xssf work book, right? So this is the very first class that we will be calling. If we call XSSF, it supports both format, that is .xls and .xlsx, right? So if I mouse over onto this, it should actually show me the imports from Apache POI, right? After this, I need to create a sheet. So I'll say XXSF sheet 0 equal to new XSSF sheet, right? Now if I do it like this, I can still import the sheet, but this thing, why it is throwing an error, if I mouse over onto this, so it says that the constructor is not visible. There is a private constructor over there which will not allow to create an object like this. So how we need to do that? This sheet will be referred from this workbook reference variable only. So I can write it like this: workbook dot create sheet, and I can give the sheet name as, let's say, first sheet. So this is how this is being tied up to the workbook itself, right? Because we cannot create sheets alone, right? I mean, even if you talk about manually doing it, you cannot create a sheet without opening up a workbook, right? So this is how the sheet will be created with this workbook only. So next thing we need to create a row. So I'll say row at the 0th index, right? Equal to I've given the reference name as 0, so that we should be able to understand that it should be at the 0th index. So we're gonna create a row on this sheet. So I can say sheet 0 dot create row, and I'll pass the index, right? And then after that, I will be creating a cell. So cell, let's say I'll give a reference name as cell A equal to, I'll import the rows first, right? Row should be imported using this, all right? And then I can say row 0 dot create cell, right? And the cell again at the 0th index. Then I'm gonna create one more cell, cell B, right, at the first index, let's say, right? So I'm gonna set a value to both of these cells. I'll say cell A dot set, there's a method set cell value. Now you can see a lot of data types available. You can add a boolean value, a calendar, date value, double value, rich text, or a string value, right? So I'm going to add a string value. I'll say first cell, and in the second one I'll say cell B dot set cell value, and I can set the cell value as second cell. Alright, now next thing we would be needing is the connecting streams. So I'll gonna take like the very first file. I'll say file f equal to new file, and I'm gonna create a path. I'm gonna give the path where we need to create this file. So path would remain same. I'm gonna give it like where we were practicing the file writing. So I'll say my excel file dot xlsx. Right, you can give any format. xlsx will also gonna work over here, and give it in double backslash like this. Right, now then you need another stream, that is file output stream, right, because we are writing it inside. So we would be needing the file output stream. I'll say new file output stream, right, and we'll give the reference of file over here, right, and import this again, and then add the exception, right, and then we need to write inside the file. So we will be needing the workbook reference, and I can say over here workbook dot write this file output stream, right, and after that again we need to add this exception, and then we need to close the stream. So closing the stream, so we'll say fo dot close like this. All right, and over here I'll just gonna print file created. Now if I run this code now, so it says that the file is created, and now if we take a look over here, see my Excel file got created. If I double click and open it, you'll see that the first cell and the second cell is being printed over here. So whatever that we have given over here, like the value cell A and B, it got printed as it is. Now let's add some more values to the rows. Let's say what happens if I change the index. If I change the index, this to 1, right, and this to 1, and this to 2, right, and let me close the sheet, and let me again run it. So let's see what it will gonna do. And if you see over here, it will actually gonna override the previous file because we have not appended it, right? See, we have given row as 1, so it has started from the second row, because the very first row start from the 0th index, and same goes with the cell. So if we have given the value as 1 in the index, then it will gonna write it inside the second cell, right? Now let's do this thing that we have done it in a very simple way. We should now do it with using some loops, right? So what I'm gonna do, I'll gonna create a loop for rows first. So I'll say row equal to start from 0, right? Row is less than 10, so I'll name it as rows, right? So rows start from 0, rows less than 10, rows plus plus, and inside it, it should actually gonna create a row. So I can just copy this thing over here from here and give it over here, and instead of 1, I'm gonna give I, right? So it should actually gonna create 10 rows over here, right? And sorry, instead of I'm gonna give rows over here, right? And after that, I'm going to create an inner loop which should actually create columns. So columns start from 0, columns less than, let's say I run it for 10 columns itself, and columns plus plus. And inside it, I'm going to add, for columns, I can say cell equal to row dot row 0 dot, basically, or yeah, I'll just name it to row, not row 0, row dot create cell, right? And cell, I'll again gonna give as columns, right? This columns, I'm referring to this columns over here. Then again, I'll say cell dot, I need to set the value to this cell, so I'll say set cell value, and I'll gonna set some integer value, or maybe I'm gonna add some like random numbers to all these cells. So I'll use the same logic for generating random numbers. I can say int, and then math dot random into 100. So from 1 to 100, it will gonna generate any random numbers like this, right? Now if I run this logic, now let's see, the file is created again, and if I open up this file now, oh great, you can see 10 columns and 10 rows, right? So this is how we have actually added the values inside rows and columns using a very simple logic. So a loop we have created for rows that started with 0, for columns that started with 0. First, the inner loop will gonna execute. It will run for the 0, 1, 2, 3 up till less than 10 columns, less than the index 10, right? So start from 0 up till 9. So run for 10 columns and then for 10 rows as well, right? Now that we are done with the writing inside the Excel file, in the next example, we're gonna see how we can read the values from the Excel file.